This one in particular, it's at a beautiful venue. Pretty much everybody's staying in the hotel here. And so that means, after the sessions, people are going out and getting a beer and continuing the conversation. And it's just a great way to experience the conference.
So welcome to our talk. This is what's new in Visual Studio for C++ developers. My name is Michael Price. I am a senior product manager on the Microsoft C++ team.
And my name is Mryam Girmay. I'm the C++ team's productivity product manager in Visual Studio. Today we wanted to start by thanking all of you who already took our survey. Those of you who haven't, please take your time to fill it out for us because your input is what shapes our product. By the way, our survey is not only for our customers.
Let's pause just a second.
Yes.
The screen's not showing our thing yet. There you go. Perfect. Thank you.
So this was our survey. By the way, our survey is not only for our customers, it's for everyone. Since our C++ product team's mission is to empower every C++ developer and their team to achieve more by creating C++ standards, investing in MSVC compiler and libraries, simplifying C++ with vcpkg, enhancing Visual Studio IDE, and by improving your C++ experience in Visual Studio Code. Now, our today's agenda will be focused in Visual Studio. However, for those of you who are interested in VS Code, which is our free, open source, and the #1 most used code editor, yesterday Alex and Sinem covered a session where they showed all the updates we have in VS, and also they showcased great demo. Please go ahead, watch their videos once they're out.
And if you didn't know, this is the 10th anniversary of CppCon, which means that if you know about numbers, this is the 11th CppCon, but it's been 10 years since the first one. And we've been giving some version of this talk, this VS talk, for 10 years at CppCon. And so we want to really give thanks to everybody in the community for helping us make the products better for you. We really rely on that feedback, and we take it and we use it to make the products do what you want them to do. We also want to thank CppCon organizers, the volunteers and staff. It's super hard to pull off a conference like this, and they do it year after year, and it's always excellent. So really thanks out to them. If you want to catch any of the old VS talks that we have, or any talks by any Microsoft folks, you can visit these links here. They'll take you to YouTube playlists that have all those talks already bundled up there. You can just put them on play and just, I don't know, go to sleep with them or something. Let them keep playing. So today we're going to cover several topics. We're going to talk about productivity features in the IDE. We're going to talk about some game development features that we've been working on. We're going to give you an update on MSVC toolchain features. And then we're going to close out with debugging cross-platform and source control. If you aren't a Visual Studio user and you want to get started, you can go to aka.ms/visual-studio. That'll take you to a website that'll get you started, get you downloading the product, and give you information on it. So we're going to start off with productivity features. And we're going to try to be very demo heavy in this talk. So we're going to introduce you to a few features that we've already shipped, but that you need to have kind of a basis on whenever we go into the demos. So the first one is Build Insights. So this is a tool that lets you analyze and optimize your build, lets you see how long certain things are taking. And we announced last year at CppCon that it's integrated in with Visual Studio 2022. So it's super easy to use and run and make improvements to your build process. If you want to use Build Insights in your build, all you have to do is go to the Build menu, Build, Run Build Insights, and then you can choose Build All or Rebuild All. The next thing we want to talk about is GitHub Copilot. So we're announcing now that GitHub Copilot is generally available, and it's bundled with Visual Studio. Previously, it was a couple different extensions that you had to get installed, and you had to get the right versions, and when VS updated, you needed to get an update to those. Now it's all bundled in. Whenever you install the product, it comes with it. You can activate GitHub Copilot in Visual Studio. There's a little GitHub Copilot badge in the upper right. When you click it, there'll be a Manage Subscriptions option. That'll take you right out to github.com, where that's the subscription page for GitHub Copilot, and you can get your license set up there. The main two sort of interfaces for GitHub Copilot are GitHub Copilot Chat and Editor Suggestions. But there are lots of other features in the IDE we've added that are powered by GitHub Copilot. And so to notice those, what you'll look for is this little sparkle icon. Anywhere in the IDE or in our presentation, you see the sparkle icon. That's a little clue to you that, GitHub Copilot's in the background doing stuff for you. GitHub Copilot works with any repository. It doesn't have to be hosted on GitHub. All you have to have is a GitHub account that has a license. If you want to learn more about how the features for GitHub Copilot, you can go to aka.ms/GitHub Copilot-features. And we're also going to be demoing some of those pretty soon here. I want to go a little bit deeper in Copilot, though. And specifically, what our team at Microsoft and the C++ team has been doing is improving the experience for C++ users in GitHub Copilot. And you need to understand that GitHub Copilot is more than just an LLM. It's not just like a thin wrapper around ChatGPT, right? Instead, we focus on two sort of main areas to improve the experience. So one is we work to provide useful context from your project and your environment while enabling you to stay in control of your content and data. That's number one. Number two is we're finding development tasks where GitHub Copilot is naturally suited to help user and refining on that experience. It turns out, as we've gotten more experience with LLMs, they're really good at some things, but they're also really bad at some things. So we're putting in that research work to find out what's good and what's bad, finding the good stuff and really developing the product and refining on that to make you more productive. So Mryam, do you want to get us into the first demo?
Yes. So for this demos, we're going to be taking the role of a developer for an open source space exploration game called Pioneer. There are several issues that have been filed, and we're going to try to solve them using Visual Studio tools. I have Visual Studio open here. First, let's make sure we're on the working branch. Clean up, that's what I wanted. And in my error list, I can see that we have a lot of warnings.
So Mryam, I know that there's a lot of warnings in input.h. Maybe we want to find those.
Let's go ahead and open it up. And in our input header, okay, they all seems to be in the same line. And if we don't understand what this warning is about, we can click this GitHub Copilot icon chat. And also we can open GitHub Copilot chat from this view menu. It's loading. And GitHub Copilot chat, or using this keyboard shortcut. Also, we can open it up from this, let me open it here, from this menu badge over here. Here is telling us what this issue is about, giving us a way we can improve it. And if we click on the reference, we can see all the files that are providing context to Copilot. So it can give us this explanation. All right, but usually, let me unpin this first. Oh, I pinned it. So usually when I see a warning in my error list, I double click into it. It navigates me to the file. Here I can see it's complaining about the initialization of the Struct members in Axis. Let me open GitHub Copilot inline chat using right click. I can click here, or I can use this Alt+/keyboard shortcut. For now, I'm just gonna click it. And here, let me do /fix. The first tab is gonna include the code snippets. Here, I'm hoping it's gonna suggest me to add a literal suffix appended to the initializer value, which it did. Let me go ahead and accept it. All right, so since we have done this, the next ask we received is to reduce the runtime memory footprint of Pioneer. Now, an experienced engineer might know exactly what to do, where to start. However, a less experienced dev might not know where to start. Let's use GitHub Copilot chat and see what sort of changes we might consider. Let me pin it here. Okay, let's start a new conversation and ask what techniques are there to reduce memory padding in a C++ type. Okay, now here I'm asking this question because I know reducing memory padding optimized memory usage, and GitHub gave me these techniques: reorder members, use pragmapack, byte filters, align us. I'm curious, who could I talk to if I wanted to learn more about pragmapack? More pragmapack. Okay, here I'm expecting to see list of information. Okay, it's telling me Cybrand is a good person to ask for anything about C++ language features. Let's click on the reference. All right, here I can see this Copilot instruction MD file, which is providing additional context for Copilot so that it can use it as context. Let's go ahead and click it. So this is helping Copilot to understand our environment, and this information is not on the source code or any documentation in the repo. Here we can see that any questions about C++ language features we can ask to Cybrand. Okay, I'm also curious, is Cy one of the authors in the authors.txt file? Tab. Okay, it's telling me that our organization has excluded this file from being referenced. Let's ask it anyways. Okay, now tell me it's been excluded, and if I click on the reference, I can see the content in this file have never been sent to Copilot to be used as context. All right, now let's go ahead and do what we were doing and ask it to find us some types that are inside the Galaxy directory that have padding, and we can reduce them using pragma-pack. Now I'm expecting to see a list of types.
So Mryam, I know that when I've looked at this in the past, Star System has had some memory padding, but let's see what GitHub Copilot has
Sure.
to say about it.
Cool. It's scanning our directory. Hopefully it's gonna give us some good types that we can reduce their padding. Okay, I can see Galaxy. I see Star System, I guess.
I saw Sector System.
Let's see. System pass, sector system. Okay, so this seems to be some of that types. I'm gonna go ahead and open all-in-one search using Control+Q and look for the Star System file.
So we could click on one of these other ones and it would take us to it,
I need to go
but
to
we don't know for certain. Like we could have to go check it. But we know Star System has some memory padding. We can use GitHub Copilot later if we want to go find more.
Yep. So here, let me unpin this one, and I can unpin this one too. So when we hover over the Star System class, I can see this link, generate Copilot summary. Since I don't know what this class is doing, I can understand what it is, what it contains from this explanation. And if I wanted to continue this conversation, I can click on this continue in chat link here. Also, if you notice, there's this size, which is 440 bytes. Let's go ahead and click on the memory layout link. Here is giving us a view of the size, offsets, and paddings of this type. I can see that there are some offsets we can improve. Let me navigate back here. I can close this. So let me open GitHub Copilot inline chat using Alt+/. And here, let me ask it, how would I use pragma-pack to reduce memory padding for I want Star System. I want the class one. Enter. Let me ask it. Okay. Now, since I never use pragma-pack, I'm hoping to see a syntax that I can use. Okay. It's telling me to set the packing alignment to 1 byte. 1 byte seems extreme, so let me go copy only this one, what I wanted, and change it to 4 bytes. And let me also add this part. Close it. I can collapse the class using this arrow here. Add it. Okay, let's save it. Now when we hover, let's expand it first. When I hover over the class name, I can see the size has decreased to 428 bytes. Let's go ahead and open the memory layout. Okay, now I can see that the padding is much better than it was before. All right, let's close this. And let me save this and close it too. Okay, so this is how we have improved the memory usage of one type. You can try to find another types, and you can use Copilot to help you find those types and reduce their padding, or you can try to use other techniques that Copilot suggested. Okay, the next ask we received is to reduce build time. Since we have new features added, the build time has increased. Now let's use build insight to understand and analyze our build time. To run it, we're gonna go ahead do build and run it, build insight. For now, we have already builded it in order to save time, and we have loaded this ETL file. Let me open here. Now, for those of you who never heard about Build Insight, it's a tool in Visual Studio that helps you to understand and improve your C++ build time. Whether you're working on a large-scale project or trying to accelerate individual builds, Build Insights pinpoints the files and operations that are slowing things down. So you can use the analyze in order to improve your compile time. Here in our ETL file, we can see include files. Here we have all the files, how they are impacting the build time, and how many times they have been parsed. You can expand it to see where it has been included. Okay. We also have include tree. Here, after it loads, it's going to display all the files under the translation unit. and how they are connected to each other. Let me go ahead and open one of them. I'm just going to use the system editor, right-click, go to File. Okay. Here we can see that there are a lot of include directives. We have this feature called include diagnostics that will help you understand the structure of your header files. Let me go ahead and turn it on, right-click, include directives, turn include diagnostics on. And this will display how many times each header file has been referenced in this file. Okay. For example, for the Pi header, I can see the comment that it has been used only for the Loon engine. I can click on the references. All right. I can make sure that it has been used only for the Loon engine. However, if I decide to use this file for other contents, include diagnostics will still track it and display it here. However, this comment will not be relevant enough, so let me go ahead and delete it. Okay. Also, when you build your file or your project, you will be able to see the build time of each header file, as you can see it here. And if you can see, there's this dimmed header over here. When we hover over it, we can see this include is never being used in this file. And we can make sure by checking the reference, it's never been referenced in this file. However, it's playing a part in impacting the overall build time. Let's go ahead and remove it. We can hover, click on the light bulb. We can either remove this include file, remove all unused includes in this file, or optimize include graph for this file, which will remove all unused includes and add all transitively used headers. For now, I'm just going to remove all unused includes. Okay? Cool. So doing this will help me optimize the build time of this file. This might not be a big impact compared to the overall build time. However, you can use Build Insight to help you find the files that you can optimize and then clean them up using include cleanup so that you can improve the overall build time. Now let's go back to the ETL file. The new two tabs we have added this year, one of them is function view. Here we will be able to see the code generation times of our functions, and we have added the ability to view force inline sizes. I think this is critical because having a bunch of force inlines can slow down your compile time. And you can see how each function is contributing to your build time. So the first one is, if you can see it here, is on an open GL file. We can do nothing about it. However, the second one is the demo file. Let's go ahead and open it, right-click, go to File. And if we read this information here, we can see that this file has never been used in our project. So let's go ahead and remove it. CMake, list this file. Okay, it's here. Now let's remove the line that's compiling this file, save it. Okay, let's go back to the ETL file. Here we can see doing that will improve our build time by 0.5%, which is not a big deal, but it's good enough for a quick fix. We also have added a template view. This enables you to see how the templates are contributing to the overall build time, and you can see their names, their specializations, and where the instantiation happens. This view is critical because you will be able to see how the instantiations are affecting, slowing down the build time, and then you can address them by optimizing any meta programming, or you can make sure that expensive instantiations are not in header files that are included everywhere. Okay? So we use this to analyze our build time. Now the last ask we received was to add a test unit. Let's do that by navigating to string name. Let's go here. Then you navigate to the end of the code. Here I'm gonna add a subcase. I wanted equality. So Copilot has suggested me to add this. Let me review it. That's what I wanted. Tap, tap, and save it. Okay, so this was our first demo. Let me first close all this window that I have opened. And we're gonna go back to our slides. Okay, cool. So as we just showcased in our demo, Build Insights provides an ETL file with detailed analytics of your C++ build time. Also this year we have added a function view that enables you to see and analyze the code generation times of your functions. And in Visual Studio 17.10, we have added a template view that you can use to see how the compile time of your template is, their specialization is, and instantiations. And not only this, we also have added file path pattern filter, and you can use this to focus on the directories that you wanted to work on, and you can include or exclude file path patterns to help you concentrate on part of the code base that is most critical to your task. We also have added a project filter, which is another filter to help you narrow down your analysis on specific projects that are most relevant to your workflow. Another critical feature we have added here based on developer ask is file selection completion. This enables you to run build insights in the selected files within Solution Explorer. And this is important because you can analyze specific files without having to build the entire project. And I think this is important because you can use it to compare the performance of different files. Okay? We also have include diagnostics that enables you to track where and how your include directives has been used. Also, when you build your file or your project, you will be able to see the build time of each header file. And our memory layout enables you to see the size, offsets, paddings of data members within classes, structures, and unions. And you can use the information presented here to optimize your build time, your memory usage by rearranging data members or minimizing padding. More features that can boost your productivity are text formatting options. This allows you to select italic, bold, strike-through, or underline text formatting styles. Some examples of use case for this is to use italic for comments and strike-through for inactive usings. Also, we have image hover preview, which displays a small preview of your image with its dimension in pixels and its file size in bytes. And this feature supports most image types, including GIFs and non-monikers. We also have added AI-powered rename suggestions that enables you that generates name suggestions for any C++ identifier based on its usage and the style of your code. Now, instead of spending time thinking about new names, you can review the names suggested by Copilot. We also have case-preserving find and replace, which I think is an efficient way to find and replace texts without having to worry about their different casings in various forms.
And so we also showed lots of GitHub Copilot features as well. One of the ones we showed was content exclusion. That was the feature that you saw that whenever we tried to reference a certain file, it said, no, I'm not sending this to Copilot at all. We'll kind of see this a little bit later too. But what it lets you do is it lets you specify certain files or paths that will never be sent for any GitHub Copilot powered feature. And the really cool thing here too is if you open up a file that has been excluded and you try to use like the code completion or inline chat, it will give you a message that says, no, that's not available here because this has been excluded. If you want to learn more about content exclusion, you can go to aka.ms/copilot/exclude_content. You also saw an experiment that we're running. You should expect that to see landing in public builds at some point, which is GitHub Copilot custom instructions. So this lets you actually specify in your repository a particular file, and that content gets sent to GitHub Copilot chat anytime you interact with the chat interface, right? So this way, it's like context that should be relevant for any question that gets sent to chat. There's lots of really cool stuff you can do with this. The things that I've kind of found really useful is being able to be like, change how verbose GitHub Copilot is. Maybe you want it to be more terse than it is normally. Or you want it to have a particular tone of output when it's conversing. It doesn't really converse, it's just a machine. But you can also do things like point users towards internal resources if they ask questions on specific topics. You saw this, we asked a question about some C++ feature, and so it redirected us to Cybrand, who we had set in that instructions file to be the contact there. I think there's a lot of possibilities going forward this. And so lots of GitHub Copilot features we showed. The main sort of interfaces were the GitHub Copilot chat window with lots of different ways to get to it. It's that natural language interface, kind of like ChatGPT lets you have a conversation with the LLM. We also showed you inline GitHub Copilot chat. This is a sort of minimized form of that conversational idea, but it allows you to really provide a really narrow, scoped down context to GitHub Copilot to get an even better suggestion back out. The really great thing about this one is that it can actually provide you with a diff inline that you can just accept, and it just applies it to your code. We also showed you GitHub Copilot editor suggestions. This basically, when you start typing your code, it's going to look at what you've typed, it's going to look at what the context is that's being provided to it, and it's going to make a guess about what it is you're trying to do. And it's surprisingly good. If you've not tried it out, you can be shocked sometimes of it can get exactly what it is that you want, saving you hundreds of keystrokes and probably minutes of your time. You should always check the responses here because it is ultimately going to be your code. And sometimes it will give you hallucinate and do other things. But it does a really good job of giving you a first draft of the thing that you're looking for. So a couple of the things we've shown and a couple of that we kind of showed a little bit of. If you're unfamiliar with a particular type or symbol, you can hover over it and generate a Copilot summary of that C++ symbol. You can interact with GitHub Copilot through the error list. So if you have a warning or an error that you're not sure how to fix, you can ask GitHub Copilot to either explain it or fix it right there. And then whenever you're in a chat interface, you can provide / commands. And that just gives a little bit of extra intent, like explaining to GitHub Copilot what you're trying to get out of this. And we're going to have more Copilot features later. Just keep an eye out for that sparkle icon. Wherever you see it, that means GitHub Copilot's working in the background. So, Miriam, what sort of updates do we have for game development?
Of course, we have some updates. We are always adding and improving features in Visual Studio to make your game development experience better. And right here, I wanted to pause and thank all gaming studios and individuals who provided their feedback, helping us improve our product further. The good news is that we have added a direct support for Unreal Engine projects. This means you no longer need to generate Visual Studio solutions from Unreal Editor or Unreal Build Tool. And any changes you make in Visual Studio or Unreal Engine Editor will be synced automatically, creating a smoother workflow. And this works automatically for Unreal Engine 5.4 and later. However, for UE 5.0 up to 5.3, it requires additional patching. We have more UE integrated features such as an easily attached Unreal Engine toolbar and the ability to quickly set command line arguments and macro specifier suggestions along their description. Right now, we're gonna go ahead and see some videos on how this functions, on how these features function. Okay? The first one is Unreal Engine toolbar. You can now add Unreal Engine toolbar to centralize your UE-related actions. You can access Visual Studio integration using this UE toolbar. As you can see in this example, we have added an easily attached combo box that lets you search and attach to your UE processes. Nice. And you can use this feature to rescan blueprint references, shortcut to UE log, shortcut to UE config page, and also to the start and stop buttons of UE server for Unreal Engine text adapter. Okay, next we have set command line arguments. You can now quickly set command line arguments without going to setting. You can see in this video. Okay, type the argument, press enter, and Visual Studio will launch the application with this argument applied. Now this feature is only in Unreal Engine projects. However, the team is working hard to bring it to the general C++ applications. Okay. We also have Unreal Engine macro specifier suggestions. You can now see macro specifier suggestions when you are writing new macros. When you write a macro, Visual Studio will bring member lists as soon as you type the letter. Also, you can use Ctrl+space or Ctrl+J to bring up those member lists. And as you can see in this example, with each suggestion, you will be able to see the description of the specifier. Also, the suggestions include wildcards like this, right? And this is very highly requested feature as there are a lot of macro specifiers to choose from when you are working with UE macros. Okay. We have more UE integrated features such as the ability to add templates for Unreal Engine classes, modules, plugins directly from the Add New Item dialog. Also, blueprint references, we have improved it now. You don't need dependency for Unreal Engine integration tool, Unreal Engine integration tool for UE. And also, you can see blueprint references as code lenses when you have Visual Studio tool for Unreal Engine components selected from Visual Studio installer. Now, this and some more game development features will be presented by David Lee, who's our game dev PM, on the October 3rd at the Unreal Fest conference. To learn more about the game developments we have done, please go ahead, watch those videos once they're up. Michael, what do we have for MSVC toolchain?
All right, let's talk about it. So the team's been working hard on making C++23 STL conformance the past year. We implemented in the past year a std optionals monadic interface and the MD span type. We've also added some improvements to std string, like the contains member function, which my personal opinion is it should have been in there 20 years ago, because we've all had to write it, right? We've also made it so you can't construct a std string from null pointer because A, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and B, it's actually sort of dangerous. And lots of other improvements to std format and making more things const-expr, and lots of improvements to the ranges library. There's a few items left on C++23 conformance for the standard library. If you want to see what's left and track that, you can go to aka.ms/stl-cpp23 to see what all's left. At the same time, we've also been doing a little bit of C++26 work. Most of these features are things that we are making available in previous modes. They're like defect resolutions. Things like improving std format for pointers, and then a version of the std print line function that just prints a blank line when it takes no argument. So you don't have to put an empty quotes in as an argument. The team's waiting on C++23 features that don't have compiler dependencies to be complete before they really open up the floodgates for C++26 PRs. But since it's an open source project, there's nothing stopping anybody from going and implementing stuff. And whenever the team's ready to start accepting PRs, they'll make sure to let you know. To see what works remaining on the C++26 STL features, you can go to aka.ms/stl-cpp26. The team's also been making improvements on address sanitizer. If you're not familiar with address sanitizer, it's a tool to diagnose and report hidden memory safety errors with 0 false positives, and it runs at the same time your app runs. When you build with address sanitizer, it instruments your build, and then as your app is actually running through the steps, through the code flows that it actually goes through, like in the user environment, it'll detect actual errors there. Anything it reports are actual real problems that are in your code. We use this internally at Microsoft in a lot of our internal testing on big products like Windows and Office and the standard library and Azure storage. This is a really critical component behind Azure. It finds bugs. I really recommend everybody should be using address sanitizer internally on their stuff. If you want to find out more about how to use address sanitizer in your environment, you can go to aka.ms/cpp-address sanitizer. And at the same time, we've been making lots of improvements on the back end. If you're not familiar with what back end means here, that means things like the linker and code generation and debug info. And so we've made productivity gains. We've, for example, made the link time code generation have higher throughput by using multiple threads during that process. We also fixed a really long-standing bug about the debugger, where if you had a blocked scope variable, it didn't show up properly in the locals window in the debugger. And we fixed that with a back-end code gen fix, which was really nice. Some other safety and security features we've been implementing in the back end. We have a decal spec decorator that now you can say guards overflow for signed arithmetic. And then we've also been making improvements there to make address sanitizer more usable with things like C++ modules, and actually back-end improvements to make address sanitizer catch more bugs. We're always paying attention to performance of the code that we generate. And we've really been focusing the past few years on ARM64 performance. So you can see at every release we've had, we've continued to improve the performance of the code we generate for ARM64 architectures. And some of the things we've been doing the past year is we added a new SLP vectorizer that can vectorize non-loop code. We have an example of this out here at this aka.ms link. It'll take you to a Godbolt example that will show you the code, and it'll show you a before and after of what the code gen looks like, so you can see for yourself just how much better it is. We're also taking better utilization of special hardware addressing modes in these target architectures. If you want to learn more about what the backend team has been working on, you can check out our Microsoft C++ blog at that link down there below. And we all know that, well, probably all should know, that dependency management is one of the consistently highest cited issues in the community. So earlier in the week, one of our coworkers, Augustin Popa, gave a talk on 10 problems large companies have with managing C++ dependencies and how to solve them. I attended the talk. I thought it was excellent. I really recommend people go out there and view it. Even if you aren't at a large company, having an understanding of the problems they have could save you time as well. And so one of the solutions for this is to actually use package managers. And we have a package manager that's a part of our toolchain called vcpkg. It's a cross-platform open source package manager. It's got lots of really great features. I really like things like having the manifest, which is just a very simple list of these are my direct dependencies. And then transitive dependencies will get included automatically that way. I like the fact that you can actually have custom library registries. So if you have internal libraries that you don't want to open source, you can still make a way to use those in this system. And then there's lots of really great caching features that Augustin actually talked in depth about caching at his talk. This saves you from having to build from source every time. So it really speeds up your builds. To learn more about vcpkg, go to aka.ms/vcpkg. And the team there has been making lots of improvements on our public interface for the public registry, which is at vcpkg.io. Previously, when you would go to vcpkg.io, you could search for a package to see if it was in the registry, and you could see like the name, and you could see the version number, maybe. They've made lots of improvements now. When you find a package that way, now you see a nice description of it. You can see what features you can turn on and off. You can see what transitive dependencies it will end up pulling in. And my favorite part of it is actually it gives you really nice install commands that you can just copy and paste in a terminal and just get started real quick in your environment, depending on if you're using classic mode or manifest mode. So we're going to be getting into a second demo soon. So it's going to be covering debugging, cross-platform, and source control. But we're going to introduce to you a couple of things that we want you to know before we get into it. Mryam.
Got it. So this is just a reminder, cross-platform enables you to write your code once, and then you will be able to build and debug them across multiple platforms without switching tools. Last year, here at CppCon, we have announced that we have integrated CMake debugger in Visual Studio, added remote file explorer for Linux, improved target view, added the ability to automatically install WSL from Visual Studio, and also the ability to debug Linux console apps in the integrated terminal. You can learn more about this in the link below. Visual Studio also have a robust source control feature, including integration with popular repository hosting platforms, such as which seamlessly connect with GitHub, Azure repo, and also the ability to compare different file versions and resolve merge issues, also the ability to view commit history and the context behind each modification. Now, this is just a reminder on what we have, and Michael's gonna show us a demo on the updates we have on these features and some more.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so another thing that we've been asked to do was we had some users reporting that they had some issues with the game on Linux. And so they were complaining about the brightness of the stars not being what they were previously, and that this change happened sometime earlier in the year around February. So I've been asked to go investigate this and figure out what went wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch my target machine to my WSL Ubuntu machine. So if you're not familiar with WSL, it's basically a Windows subsystem for Linux. It lets you run a Linux system underneath Windows. So if you want to get started with cross-platform development, you have a Linux system really right there integrated in with Windows. If you don't have it installed yet, there are ways to install it pretty easily from Visual Studio. If you go to Project and then install WSL for me, that will run you through a wizard that will get WSL installed and have it available to you in Visual Studio. Okay, so I know I'm going to have to eventually run this thing, so I'm going to go ahead and start a build here. Build all. While that's going, there's a couple of things I want to show you. So if you notice in here, there's also this localhost option here. What this is an SSH connection that I've added in Visual Studio. So you can actually remote your experience to a remote system over SSH. And so all the stuff will run over on that remote system, but you still get the nice graphical interface and debugger and tools and stuff inside Visual Studio. So here what I have is an SSH server set up inside my WSL instance, okay? So it's not to a remote system, it's to the same system just inside the WSL environment. So for example, I can verify this, make sure that I can connect to it. That's important because I'm going to use it later. It's verified. And we've made improvements to the connection dialog for adding connections. So previously, this didn't give you a lot of feedback about what you were typing in. But now we have these really nice watermarks on the fields that tell you which ones are required. And if you haven't filled out all the required ones, it won't even let you try to make a connection, right? So, you know, and there's also validation here. So if I put things in here that don't make sense. For port number, it's going to say, what are you talking about? 0 is also not a valid port number, so it catches that. Go back and let's fill in some bogus information to test something. Yeah, that's my name. Okay, so I'm going to connect, but this system doesn't exist. So, and now whenever it tries to connect to a system that doesn't exist, instead of just being like, there was an error, it's going to give you this really descriptive output and let you sort of identify what it is that went wrong. In this case, yes, there is no host name because that host is imaginary. I just made it up. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. I'm not going to add a new one. And so my build happened. And I need to investigate this brightness issue, right? But if you remember from our first demo, we made a lot of changes locally. And I don't want those around while I'm investigating this other brightness issue. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of commit those and try to get a PR going. So I'm changing to the Git Changes window, and I can see all the changes we have. So I'm just going to start adding these in and making commits for them. So I'm going to add input.h, and I don't exactly remember what it was that we did there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this sparkle pin icon. And I'm going to have GitHub Copilot just generate a first draft of this commit message for me, right? So if I've forgotten what it was, or maybe I misremembered what it was, I don't have to now go in and look at the code and do it. I can just let GitHub Copilot do this for me. It'll give me the good reminder. So it looks like I generated some stuff. I don't know about this indentation thing. I'm going to accept this, but I'm going to go ahead and clean up. I'm not going to say anything about the indentation, but we did add that F literal suffix. Additionally here, we have GitHub issue search integrated. So if you hit the pound or hash or octothorpe, whatever you want to call it, it'll actually let you search now for GitHub issues that are connected to this repository. So this was compilation warnings. So I'm just going to type warnings. And there's our issue. I'm going to go ahead and commit that. Let's commit system editor. And I think this was the one that we maybe removed padding on. But I'm going to let GitHub Copilot do this work for me. Oh, I was wrong. This is not the one we did the padding for. So it's really good that I let GitHub Copilot do this for me, because I would have given it the wrong description, and then it would have been really confusing for somebody later on. And yeah, all except for this pi.h, it didn't quite get that right. We'll remove that. We'll also do an issue here. Let's see, so this was compile time. Compile, resolve, nope, not that. Build time. Reduce build time. Okay, that's the one I want it to go with. Great. So to speed things up, I'm not going to do each file individually. I'm going to be a bad developer, and I'm going to commit a bunch of stuff that's unrelated all at once. No, not that. Plus. Okay, those are all on my stage. I'm going to let GitHub Copilot do this work. Sometimes it takes it a little while. Okay, so great. It gave me some stuff, but what you need to notice here is that it says files excluded. Copilot didn't use some change files in the response because your organization excluded them. This is because my organization has excluded anything from the contrib directory from being sent to Copilot. This is another example of content exclusion, right? So that file, even though it was in the commit, it never got sent over to Copilot, right? So I'm going to accept this, but I need to go and add in manually removed demo only file. I'm not going to do issue search here. You saw that happen already. Commit staged. Okay, I've staged those commits, and so I feel like maybe I'm ready, but I feel like there's something that I'm missing. And okay, what it is that we made changes to the code, and we added a unit test, right? So I should probably go run my unit test before I push this up and make a PR, right? So I'm going to go to test. This is using ctest, so we could run ctest for Pioneer. This will just run it in the console, in the terminal window. But I actually want a nice graphical experience, so I'm going to open up Test Explorer. So you can run Test Explorer now on the remote system, and it all works great. So it's discovered that I have some tests. Great, I'm going to pick one, and I'm going to tell it to play it. It's going to go do a build. Luckily, I did that build earlier, so it's not going to take so much time. It says, oh, there's no work to do. It's going to discover the tests. It's going to run them. Now I'm all green. So now I'm ready to push these changes up, right? Okay. So I can see I've got 3 commits to push. I'm just going to push this up. Now, when you push this up to GitHub.com, what you're going to get is you're going to get this pop-up, and it's going to say, hey, you pushed those up. You want to make a pull request, and you can do it directly in Visual Studio. You don't have to leave the IDE. You don't have to go out to a browser. You could just click that link, create in Visual Studio. If you click X, because we're all trained to click X's really quickly, right? If you forget that or it goes away, you can get to the same feature by going to Git, GitHub, new pull request. It's going to pull up the same experience. I'm going to unpin that so we have more space, and same with this. And my pages are all goofy. Let me close those down. Okay, so new pull request experience. So I'm cleaning up some stuff. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the issue template. That's no help. And the same thing with the commit messages. I'm just going to let GitHub Copilot make the PR description for me. And it's going to take all the stuff that was in the commits that are going to be in the pull request, and it's going to analyze those and just summarize them and make the description for me. Now, you'll see here, it's kind of, there's a graphical bug. This is a preview version of VS, by the way. There's a bug where this is not honoring the dark theme, but that thing says files excluded. Same sort of deal, right? Like this file is not to be sent to GitHub Copilot. So even when we did this step, it did not send it. So I'm going to just click accept here. I'm going to scroll through, make sure, okay, that all looks right. I'm going to add removed demo only file. All right. I could create this as a draft, if I wasn't really done with it, but I actually want this thing to get reviewed so I can get it out of the way. So I'm going to click create. Okay, good. We're doing really good now. So now I've cleaned up my environment. Now I'm ready to do the brightness, to go investigate brightness, right? So what I'm going to do is I want to do that on a new branch. So I'm going to make a new branch, brightness, create it. Okay. So I need to go find what commit might have happened sometime in February that changed something about the brightness, right? So I'm going to do view all commits. That's going to pull up the commit history. And I'm going to look through here and, okay, there's lots of changes in February. I'm not going to have time to really sort through all those changes and figure it out. So I need to find some way to get to the answer more quickly. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to filter history by just searching for star. Gives me a much more reasonable list of stuff. I can see there's 4 things here for February, but the first one here, it probably caught this word start instead of star, so I'm not going to pay attention to that one. This oldest one, the same thing on game start. So I'm going to investigate these other 2 here. So I'm going to double click on this one. It's going to pull up the commit details window, and I can see the commit message, but we already know people make mistakes, right? Maybe you got it wrong or you forgot something. So we're actually going to have GitHub Copilot explain what's in this commit. This is kind of like the reverse of generating the commit message, right? Like it's going to go look at it and see what actually was changed, and then it's going to tell you what it was. So I'm just going to scan through this explanation to see if there's anything related to brightness. And I don't see anything related to brightness in this one. So I'm going to close that.
Michael.
Yeah.
I have commented on your PR.
Okay. Let me get to just a second. I want to go look at this one other commit. Okay. I'm going to just go ahead and have it do the explain. Okay, it's going. It's still going. Okay. Refactored, introduced sort stars task for brightness sorting. Okay. That one sounds like it could be a potential problem, right? I should go investigate that. So I need to go do this. I need to go look at the comments, though. So what I would normally do here is I need to build the product and run it to see if I can see the symptom. Then I've identified this commit that I'm going to end up reverting and then trying again. So I'm going to save this commit. I'm going to click the little 3 dots and do copy commit ID. Okay. So I've saved that off. I can go back to it later. So but right now what I'm going to do is I want to finish off that PR that we started. So I'm going to open Git Changes window back up. I'm going to switch back to our cleanup branch. And now when you switch to a branch that has an active PR and it has commit messages on some of the files, you'll get another pop-up that says, hey, this has active pull request, and you can show the comments in the files directly in Visual Studio. Again, you don't have to leave Visual Studio in your normal operating environment. You can click that link. Again, we like clicking X's though. So you can always get to it again. There's this PR drop-down that has more information about your pull request. You can just show comments and files right there. Okay, so I can see in here, Mryam made some comments. Yes, excellent job. All right, I'm gonna thumbs up that one and reply and resolve. And looks like there's another message. Thanks resolving. I totally worked hard on that. Reply and resolve. Please don't take credit for other people's work, just for demo purposes. Okay, now that I've done that, the CI system is going to take care of the rest of its job. It's going to run all the platforms, and whenever it's good, it'll merge it and stuff. So, all right, back to the issue at hand. I need to run the product so that I can see if this brightness problem happens, right? So let me close that. I'm going to open up Solution Explorer. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to CMake targets view. Okay, I'm going to pull up my CMake targets. I'm going to set Pioneer as the startup project. And I'm going to start a debugger. So debugging remotely into the Linux or remote system works just fine. It's going to pop up. It's going to pop up a screen here. Okay, great. So Pioneer's running now. Now, I have this. It probably looks pretty big to most people, but my vision is getting pretty bad as I get older. So I actually want this to be bigger. I need it bigger for my own purposes. So I'm going to just cancel out of this. And fortunately, I know exactly where I need to go to make that happen. So the problem is that the file that controls the size of that screen is not in my project. It's not in my solution or my source code, the repo, anywhere. Instead, it's a config file that lives in the user's home directory. So I need to get to a place where I can change that. So I can do that with the Remote File Explorer. This is something we introduced before. But what we have now is this search window, or this search field here. So I can just search for config.ini. Hit enter, and it's going to find, yep, okay, that's the file that I actually need. I'm going to double click it, and I'm going to go find this. Okay, let's make it bigger. Let's make it 800 by 1050. How about that? A little bit bigger, make it a little easier to say. See, okay, I'm going to save that. So now when I save that, it's basically saved it and copied that back over to the remote system, right? So now whenever Pioneer runs, I should get a bigger screen. Right? Let's see what happens. Okay. Yeah, it's maybe even a little too big now. It's bigger than what fits on my screen. But I can actually read this now. And I can go on and do the debugging process, identify that it has happened, do the revert, and so on. We're not going to do all that here because we only got 8 minutes left. But we're going to jump back into our slides and wrap up. Just close that and switch back to the slides. Okay. So we showed you a lot of stuff where GitHub Copilot can actually make source control operations a lot easier for you. So you can say goodbye to the really ridiculous updated main.cpp or file.cpp message that sometimes people, either tools will insert automatically or that people get lazy and I don't remember what this was. Yeah, I updated this file. Instead, you can just let GitHub Copilot do the heavy lifting, create that first draft of the commit message, then you check it, make sure it's correct, and then submit it. Same thing with pull request descriptions. If you've got a pull request that's got thousands of changes, hundreds of files, right? You don't have to remember all those things. Just like GitHub Copilot do that work for you. And then if you do run into commits in your Git history that have that sort of like really non-useful or you suspect may be incorrect, you could just have GitHub Copilot explain exactly what was in that commit so you can drill down to it and get the answer real quick.
All right, so for our cross-platform, we have improved the Remote File Explorer further. Now you will be able to view and edit files within Visual Studio, similar to how we would manage files in Solution Explorer. We have also improved our connection manager, making it easier for you to manage your existing connections and seamlessly add new ones. And manual execution and debugging were required for remote Linux targets. Now the support for remote Linux unit tests is added to the Text Explorer in Visual Studio. This means you can debug individual files without having to run all the files, which saves time and simplifies the debugging process. We also have improved our CMake target view by making it easy for you to view all the buildable targets and also have the options to build and debug them. Okay, so we didn't get enough time to show you the updates we have for our debugging, but we have also added the ability to group breakpoints, which allows you to manage groups of breakpoints at once, and you can set default breakpoint groups, and the newly added breakpoints will be automatically added to it. This enables you to seamlessly enable or disable groups of breakpoints at once. And we have done performance improvement in our conditional breakpoints. Conditional breakpoints are powerful debugging tools that gets triggered when a certain condition is met. Now the time for this condition to be met is around 4 times faster than it was in Visual Studio 17.9. Okay? This means you can debug your code faster using these enhanced conditional breakpoints. We have also added AI-generated expressions to our conditional breakpoints and trace points because coming up with conditions, remembering syntaxes, or sometimes understanding different options is not always easy. Now, this AI-generated expression provides debugging suggestions based on our code.
Yeah, and so we're here at the end of our talk. We want to remind everybody of the mission of our C++ product team at Microsoft. That's to empower every C++ developer and their teams to achieve more. We do that by getting feedback from all of you. So please, even though our raffle is done, all the prizes have gone home, the real prize is the time we spent together. And so if you want to spend time talking to us, please take the survey, indicate how you want to get in touch with us, what you want to talk to us about, and we'll be emailing you if you do that. You can also contact us on the Visual Studio channel on the Discord. And also we have business cards in the back. If you didn't grab any of our business cards, please take those and get in touch with us whenever you have features or problems that you run into. We want to know what those are. And happy coding, everybody.
Happy coding. Thank you.
No problems, and things went fast. So we have 4 minutes for questions. Please don't make them too hard.
Hello, thank you very much for your talk. I think a few people have noticed over the past couple of years, your STL team is still very, very productive. Your compiler backend team, very productive. But your compiler front-end team seems to have gone a bit quiet. Other compilers have maybe taken the lead. What's happening there? Are your compiler front-end engineers working on a different compiler, perhaps, for a different language?
Okay, so your observation generally about what sort of products are being produced and things, I think is accurate, right? So the thing you need to understand is that we had a real big push for C++ 20 conformance on the front end. We had lots of resources working on that. We have less people working directly on that, but those people are still working on compiler features. It just may not be publicly visible to folks outside of Microsoft, right? And so it's just a matter of allocation of what those people are working on, right? So what I would recommend is if you have specific C++ 23 or even C++ 26 features that you're like, I really want this feature for these reasons because it makes my life this better in this way, let us know what those are. Send us an email at our general contact or one of our PM contacts. Find us on Dev Community. You can file Dev Community bugs for those. And that really does help us prioritize where engineers' time goes, right? And so we really need people to do that so we know where we can help you guys at. And upvote, yes. Dev Community, if you're not sure, when there's an issue in Dev Community, if it's already there, upvote it. If it's something you care about, upvote it. We actually track what is getting upvoted and how many votes and how recent those votes are. So please do that. That really sends the signal to folks that make decisions about allocations to where we go.
Hello. I have 2 tiny questions and one slightly bigger one.
Okay.
So I wrote this down when you were using it, and then I'm really glad it happened to you on stage, because it happens to me all the time. Can you move those revert and commit buttons like 5 pixels apart?
That's a good piece of feedback. We'll take it back to the UI teams.
Great. Yeah, and then the CMake Test Explorer, does that only work for Google tests still? Or does that work for plain
Right,
C-test
so
tests?
the Test Explorer.
Yes.
So Test Explorer works for any C-test thing. It doesn't matter what the underlying thing that C-test is hooked into, whether it's Catch or Google or whatever. I don't know if you just natively use like G-test or thing like. I don't remember exactly what features are available where. But if it's a C-test, we go through that C-test interface to report
It's just
it.
plain C-test. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So the other one, I'll try and be quick. So the text, the search at the beginning of organizational data from Copilot, that's what I saw, right? It was
The custom instructions piece?
No, it was who do I talk to about this?
Yes.
Right. That sounded great, but have you thought about maybe allowing us to to search that structured data through text instead of like bypassing the conversational aspect of it, like having us. There's obviously some kind of structured data that the
Yeah.
Copilot has.
Yeah.
Is there
So that was the custom instructions piece, and the format for which this will take place. Like, this is still an experiment, so it's still in flux. But for example, the file that we pulled up that had the instructions, those were the custom instructions that get sent to Copilot chat. Like, it just includes whatever's in that file to GitHub Copilot chat.
No, what I mean is it was searching. Maybe you answered my question. I haven't realized, but I apologize if that's the case. So it looked like it was like, who do I talk to about this? And it had a name, and it was like, is this person in this text file?
Oh, okay.
And
That piece.
So if like, clearly it knows about names and about certain text files, and it has some kind of. It would be great if we could just search for that data without having a conversation with it.
Okay.
If you know what I mean.
So yeah, so there was two features sort of interplaying there. One is custom instructions, which we saw that document. That just gets sent to GitHub Copilot chat anytime there's a query in the chat interface, right? So that's how it knew whenever we said, who can I talk to about this, that it knew to point us towards Sai, because that file said, talk to Sai about it. When we asked it, is Sai in the authors.txt file? The authors.txt file is one of the files that my org has excluded from ever being sent to GitHub Copilot.
Oh.
But normally, whenever you do that hash and then like put something there, that's basically telling that what the IDE does is it grabs the contents or some portion of the contents of that file and sends it to GitHub Copilot so it has additional context. And so that authors.txt file lives in the repository. You can search it with any data text searching tools you want.
Oh, I see.
And so does the custom instructions. The custom instructions, when also, at least currently in the experiment, it lives in the source, in the repository, but it's not information about your repository or source code. It's more like metadata for your organization.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Sessions,
It is
yeah.
over.
So we've run out of time. So we need to actually make space for the next people that are going to be coming in. But we will sort of
Awesome.
migrate over here first, and then when we get told we need to move further, we will move further out into the hallway. Thank you, everybody. Just give us a minute to just unhook and go over there.